Whoa, hey, all right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. How is everybody doing tonight? Special shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the best part, the live party. Make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. Last night I did a whole show just because I felt like it. So hit the subscribe button. You will never, ever, ever miss another live party ever again. Before we begin, just a big thank you to the sponsor of the stream, mysickshirt.com. Whatever your persuasion, they've got something for you. And of course, it is the only place to get your very own The Indian Jesus official merch. Only at mysickshirt.com. All right. Let's party. Who we got in the building? We got Harley and we got 2B already. What is good, ladies? Glad to see you. So what we're doing tonight is taking a little trip back in history. Only about a year or so, but a lot can change in a year. So this is an episode from the Candace Owens podcast, and she had on Officer Tatum along with some Black Lives Matter guy. And I thought it was pretty interesting. So without further ado, let's dive right in. As always, guys, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
I do want to also say, just like out of respect to the military men that have PTSD, they actually served in the war. You were not actually a slave. I find that to be a bit offensive.
Wait.
The last thing I want to say.
No.
The last thing I want to say.
You absolutely,
It's ridiculous to say that you have
will not say that.
And the trauma that you suffered, that you experienced.
I will not allow that to ride.
You weren't a slave. You don't have PTSD from slavery.
And racist system.
Welcome.
We're going to get into all of that. All right.
Welcome back. I'm very excited about this panel today. It's going to be an awesome panel because today I have joining me back former police officer and author of Beaten Black and Blue, my dear friend, Brandon Tatum. And credit where it is due. I always say there's some people that I disagree with. None of them ever want to come on to my set or meet me. But this person has now been here twice. I met him twice. He is the chairman and co-founder of the Greater New York chapter for Black Lives Matter. Welcome, Hawk Newsome.
Credit where credit is due. Certainly, Candace Owens' podcast has got to be one of the most hostile environments for somebody even tangentially related with Black Lives Matter. So credit where credit is due.
Okay, Hawk, I'm going to start. You've been going viral, and I want to get into that. I messaged you, I texted you, and I was like, this is awesome, and it's something that we agree on and we're passionate about. But I just want to talk about, I've been covering on the show, just New York in general, because I was born in New York. You know, I was raised in Stamford, Connecticut. My mother graduated from Rye High. So I'm a New Yorker, and looking at what's going on in New York today just seems crazy to me, all across the spectrum. So this video popped up on Twitter I want to get to and talk about first and get your guys' opinion. A subway, a woman just starts freaking out about just the ads that are on subways. So let's actually watch her.
Oh, I was actually going to do a video on this. I saw this come up around again recently somewhere else, but let's take a look. Ladies going off on the subway. You know, the ads they have on the side above the seats.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's an OK Cupid ad.
Yeah. Normalizing. Yeah.
Very sexual.
Yeah.
Not happy. Oh. Not the worst thing you've ever seen, but you know, just being in public, that's probably not something I would, want my kids to see. It's not that bad again, but
so
it's not that bad. But we again just have to ask ourselves, why? Why does everything need to be so sexualized? Why?
Sorry, I love this video. Obviously, I've been covering extensively how hyper-sexualized the culture has become. This is just not the same America that I grew up in. And obviously, as someone who grew up, used public transportation, buses, subways, seeing this stuff as an ad, like people, their tongues touching and saying pansexual for an ad for OK Cupid, how do you guys feel about it?
Now, before they jump in, it's always been like, the religious right that's always been, pearl clutching, like, oh my goodness, that's so horrible. But I never meant to be, on the other side of that, saying like, yeah, oh, we got to do all the crazy stuff just because we can do it. But at a certain point, it just got too much. And you can see how there is how the pendulum swings, and you have one thing that's maybe not that bad, but then the backlash will swing even further. And what happens then, unlike a real pendulum, is that it's going to swing back even further again. Hey, we got Harley Rose sponsoring the stream early. Every single super chat comes with a treat that I forgot to bring over here for Morty. Thank you so much. Give me 1 second. Yay, Morty gets a treat. Oh, he knows. Say thank you to Harley. Thank you so much, Harley. Thank you for sponsoring the stream. All right, let me get you in this banner here.
Well, I think that, I want people to understand that this is not an accident. It's not like somebody accidentally drew that up. People spend billions of dollars in marketing. So it's a strategic marketing strategy, and it is effectively hurting our youth. Grown-up adults who are participating in this, they may understand how to deal with the images that they see, but young kids are not able to process this properly. However, I do believe that it's targeted to get young people's minds, conditioned, so when they do get older, they're more susceptible to buying into what this advertisement is showing.
Right. What do you think, Hawk?
I just can't really understand why people can't.
This is the Black Lives Matter guy.
Let others live and let live.
Live and let others live. Now, I just was listening to a Part of the Problem podcast with Dave Smith, and he made a great point. Because as, Harley says here, he's not wrong. We should be, of the general mindset to live and let live. But there is a difference between live and let live when we have the cultural underpinnings that will allow, society to kind of shape our values. There's a difference between that and ignore people doing horrible things. Now, again, this ad particularly, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I don't think it warranted being vandalized, but I certainly understand where the woman was coming from. But that's an important distinction. Live and let live goes a long way when nobody's doing anything that outside the box. You can't just live and let live when other people's living encroaches on how you are trying to live. And that's exactly, even though on a small scale, that's exactly what these ads are. Is that families just want to have, conservative traditional values and live like that. And they have to use the subway. But then they see that. And again, we're not talking about that ad specifically. We're talking about generally the hypersexualization. I guess that was just the last straw for that lady.
In my Bible, it says that God should judge people, and we should not. I believe it says something like, judge not, lest ye be judged. Unless God came down and ordained people with the power to judge all gay people, then we should still be staying true to that word. That wasn't gay.
No. I don't care if it's two straight people and their tongues are interlocking on the subway. I would have a problem with it. So let's not make this a gay thing. It's not about being gay. It's like, I'm talking about sexualization, right? So two tongues touching. Let's pretend it was a man and a female, and they were both straight.
So Harley says, we award good behavior, stand by when others stand by, and shame bad behaviors. That used to be how it was. But now we reward bad behavior. I guess we still stand by when others stand by. And we shame good behavior. We're living in the upside down, guys.
I saw a problem with it. You're saying you think it's fine.
Well, it's people kissing. As you know, the more we progress as a society, the restraints get looser, right? The further we move away from God, the more it opens up the world to do whatever it pleases, right?
And again, as an atheist, I will absolutely agree with him. The further away that we get from God and religion, the more space it leaves for things that are not in line with the Christian doctrine, specifically, speaking morally. But that's why we need to prepare people to exist in that space. Because by all evidence, we can't tell if there is a God. And some people are good at rationalizing and finding a way to believe that there is, which if that works for you, fine. But there's too many other people who cannot do that, myself included, despite trying as hard as we know how. And this is why we need to decouple morality from religion.
Right? So I can't necessarily say that this is wrong. I can't say this is wrong. People kiss on TV every day. People kiss everywhere all the time, but now it's wrong. Why do you have a problem with it?
Because I think it's disgusting for children to see two tongues of adults touching in a subway, and I am raising a child, and I would never want to walk somewhere. And again, don't care if you're black, white, straight, trans, pansexual. I don't even know what half of these terms even mean anymore. I don't want to see it. Okay, and that's not kissing. Two tongues, that is not kissing, right?
Facts. That is not kissing. Harley says PDA has its limits. And it's one thing when it's people you're close to. It's another when it's advertised in your face and literally advertised in the fact that they are trying to sell you something. Completely agree.
That is something else.
Like, look at that. That is not the same thing as a kiss that you see on TV that has a story behind it, that you're emotionally invested in, that, you know, is done tastefully. This is like the guy said, this is not by accident. Millions and millions and millions of dollars go into determining what ends up in these ad campaigns. So they know what they're doing. So to act like, oh, well, this is just the same thing we see on TV. No, it's not.
Else that's happening there, right? It's disgusting. It's meant to be provocative, and it's unnecessary that an advertiser sat down and thought that this was the only way to convey a message when you're talking about OkCupid, which is supposed to be a dating app. Like, why does it even need to be sexual at all? This is not what the ads looked like when we were growing up.
Okay, why does it need to be sexual at all? Like, come on. Obviously, people are using dating apps to have sex, not just to meet new people. In fact, how much do you hate when you match with someone and they're like, oh, I'm just here for friends? Then you're in the wrong place. It's not even advertising anything. That's something I don't understand. It absolutely is advertising something. It is advertising a lifestyle. It is advertising values, that this is okay to do, to be seen in public. That is what it's advertising. That message is going to be liked by a lot of people. And so because that message is liked, then OkCupid, the people who are putting the message out there, will get the goodwill from that. But we're far away from the age when a commercial was just like, even just a TV commercial. I mean, I haven't had cable in like 10, 12 years. But even when I did, we were past the age of when a commercial would be there to tell you, hey, this is my product. This is why you should buy it. And that's it. Commercials have become cultural. And what they're selling is the ideology that goes behind it, whatever it is.
I think it's hypocritical because you got the whole world on Tinder. You got the whole world hooking up with people. But
why do you think that is? Maybe it has something to do with advertisements like this.
Now it's not. Now you don't want to see it in your face, but we've been seeing it in movies. We've been seeing it on television. Now all of a sudden people have a problem with it. Okay.
All of a sudden? What do you mean all of a sudden? Were you not around when Cuties came out and people were outraged over the sexualization of these literally young girls? Sounds like you've been living under a rock, homie.
Okay, if we're going to say this is problematic, then we need to take a step back and look throughout the decades and say, okay, this is the process. This is how we arrived at this point. We can't just act like this is something new to us.
I agree. I do. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking issue with the way society has gone down the drain.
Let me interject real quick. Let's go back to the Bible, about judging.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible is very clear. You should know them by their fruit.
Yes.
So the things that are in the Bible doesn't say that you shouldn't judge people. You can't condemn a person, but you can make an evaluation about what you think is appropriate according to what God's word is. And so when you go...
And again, for the atheists out there, and you can replace appropriate according to what God's word is, just replace God's word with morality. appropriate according to what is moral.
I think we're on the same page. We're saying that these things are not appropriate. It's fair to say that as a Christian man, as a believer, these are not appropriate.
Christian.
Neither are the movies that they're presenting kissing in that are eligible for young people. I'm not talking about rated R movies. I'm not talking about PG-13 movies. You know, I'm talking about ones that are involving children that are rated for younger audiences. When you have kissing and sexuality, I think it's inappropriate. So just because they put it out there, just because it's mainstream, doesn't mean that it's not inappropriate.
Are we back?
Good point. In fact, I would say that is not even, the correlation isn't even there. To assume that something being mainstream means that it is appropriate. Half the culture war is about that which is in the mainstream that we determine is inappropriate. So what are you talking about? I mean, I guess, he wasn't making the point that, but yeah, I mean, it goes further than, it's not just that it doesn't mean it's not appropriate. It probably means it is inappropriate if it's in the mainstream. Holly says we control what we watch in media, though. You can't exactly change the channel on a poster. Yep. Great point. Great point.
Are we back at a place where we are arguing again sex ed in school?
Yeah, I think sex ed is a disaster.
Are we?
What do you mean? Are we arguing sex ed in schools?
We back at that point?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to go back to.
Well, if you want to go back to that, if we didn't introduce it, then AIDS would have claimed more lives than it did. If we didn't take a step back,
incorrect.
that prove it.
I'm confused. I'm assuming, knowing Candace's background a little bit better, that she doesn't want sex ed taught in schools. And that he does. That's how they're talking about it. Let's let it play out and see if...
I'm happy
Prove
to.
it.
I'm happy to.
Prove it.
So
because
I'm going to right now.
if you let me talk, sis.
Go ahead.
Because I do think that we absolutely need a level of sex education in school, because there's just, I mean, the teen pregnancies were running rampant, especially in southern states that didn't have. It was almost a direct correlation. The less sex ed that you had in the school, the more teen pregnancies you would have. So I do think we need sex ed. It's just that it's gone so far, just like everything else we've been talking about so far. It's just about taking a good thing and using just a little too much of it, if not a lot too much of it. It says they don't even teach about AIDS in sex ed. They mention it, but that's it. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Should they be saying more? Should they be saying less? I'm not sure where you're coming from with that one. But yeah, so I'm guessing that Candace Owens doesn't want sex ed, and this guy is all about sex ed.
You like to spin people. I'm unspinnable. I'm 300 pounds. You ain't gonna spin this one. All right.
Gonna find out.
If you look back, we had to educate people as to what sex was so that we could stop the spread of those sexually transmitted diseases.
That's incorrect.
How
That's
so?
Factually incorrect.
How
so
so?
I am going to educate you. I don't need to spin you, but I am going to educate you.
Please do.
Okay, so there's a book by Thomas Sowell, and he unpacks very carefully how sex education actually, what it's led to is more kids having sex than other. It was predicated on a lie. The entire sex education push was predicated on this belief that high school students were doing it anyways. They were already having sex, and that was wrong. Actually, before they started the sex ed initiative in the 1970s, the average kid that was graduating high school was graduating with their virginity. After they started the sex ed initiative, within 1 decade, that radically transformed, and now the majority of kids are doing it.
Wait, did she say the 70s? Because this does not make any sense at all. That there's other factors that go into whether or not people are having sex than are they taught about it in school. So if she's talking about the 70s, then the explosion of sexual activity and promiscuity would have a lot more to do with women's liberation and birth control than anything else. So let me just...
They were already having sex, and that was wrong. Actually, before they started the sex ed initiative in the 1970s.
And again, what else was happening in the 1970s that would have changed sexual behaviors? So to act like you can pin the explosion of promiscuity on the fact that there is sex ed is just fallacious.
The average kid that was graduating high school was graduating with their virginity. After they started the sex ed initiative, within 1 decade, that radically transformed, and now the majority of kids are doing it. Actually, sex education was teaching them about what sex was, and that conversation should have been reserved for their parents in the birds and the bees discussion. So sex ed has perverted children.
And again, we can see now that, again, this is from about a year ago. So we can see that despite the sexual education and, I mean, if you can even call it education anymore, just the sexuality that's been putting in front of children, the numbers, exactly, TB, she's just wrong about this one. The fact that we are seeing such low numbers of, especially men, but people in general having sex as teenagers, I mean, that's probably a good thing, but you're seeing a big decline. So it doesn't seem like whether or not there's sexual education that really affects it. There's so many other factors that this just doesn't go to her point.
Not the other way around.
And I think when
That's what's that fallacy called? The correlation, not causation one. I'm usually on point with my logical fallacies. I forget what it's called, but that's what you did.
I just want to respond, and I just want to keep them
That's the
clapping
facts.
because if we go back decades ago, people were having children in their teens.
But very,
People were being married in their teens. So
Barely,
now
though.
you're telling me,
I'm telling you, yes. You can
it's
look it
all
up.
false. No, we can look up that one site, but I'm talking about other individuals
Maybe he's not spinnable.
and other people who have proved that we needed sex ed in our schools to wake our children up to the fact that there are
it was
diseases
sponsored by
that
Planned
can
Parenthood dollars.
kill them.
It was sponsored.
Hey, we got traditionalists in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Traditionalist says kids are doing it with each other all the time nowadays. Back in the day, they'd only do it with their uncle or their priest. Good one, good one, good one. Welcome to the party, brother. Always glad to see you. Harley Rose says that's not true. All sex ed teaches is abstinence. It doesn't actually really teach anything. Well, that depends on the curriculum. So if you're from the South, then this may be true. But most curriculums are absolutely not abstinence only. And I remember in 2014, I went down to Washington, D.C. for the Reason Rally, something they do every 4 years. It's kind of become an ish show since atheism and liberalism have done that. But at the time, it was a great place for people like myself who care about morality and politics, but are not religious, to come and meet. And, sex ed was the main topic, that we were going to different senators from our state and making sure that they are doing comprehensive sex ed, comprehensive in relation to abstinence only. Now, remember, this was 2014. So then even at that point, there was a lot of places that I wasn't even aware of this until I went to the convention, that there were still a lot of schools teaching abstinence only. So absolutely, the abstinence only sex education does not work. It does not work. You can go, I'm pretty sure, I'd have to look up the numbers again. It's been quite a while, but I'm pretty sure the correlation between no sex ed and teen pregnancy is not even as bad as when you have abstinence only sex ed. You get more teen pregnancy than if they didn't have sex ed at all. So if what they're going to teach is abstinence only, then yes, I agree. We don't need it. We don't want it. But I don't really think that counts as sex ed. That's like the scene from The Office when they're talking about sex ed. It's like, what's the safest form of sex? And they're like, using a condom, birth control. And Andy's like, no, it's abstinence. And Daryl's like, oh, I didn't realize we were doing trick questions. What's the safest way to ski? Don't go skiing. So yeah. Either way, whatever you want to call it, that's what it should be about, and that's what it should teach. And teaching not to do something is not teaching it, not teaching about it.
Now we can argue. We can argue a lot of things, but the truth is the truth.
I just told you the truth.
No, you told me what you read in a book about a person who you admire or you choose to adopt.
No, not about a person who I admire.
I mean, put some respect on Thomas Sowell's name, but where she went with it, nah.
It's someone who you choose to adopt their philosophies. The problem with this country, the problem with this country is
this is where Candace gets into trouble. She's such an ideologue that she's not willing to have the conversation. I'm always saying, stop trying to win the argument and just have the conversation. She's always trying to win an argument when we haven't even got there yet. We're not arguing about anything. I mean, there's a discussion, there's a debate, but it hasn't gotten heated. We're just talking about our differences of opinion. And you're just going to these bad faith debate topics, debate tactics to try to win instead of hear them out.
We take the words of people on TV. We take the words of politicians. Instead of doing research for ourselves, we live in a society where people perpetuate lies, and it continues to create this divide in our country instead of looking at the truth.
This is the same person who you bring up something that's not, or that has a fact check on Facebook. You'll be like, oh, well, it's fact checked. Do your research.
What?
Doing your research is a very nebulous term. If you know how to do research, then it's a very good thing. If you don't know how to do research, you may as well not even, because all you're going to do is get more confident about the wrong ideas. I mean, I'm not saying don't research things, but I'm saying don't use the fact that you read something as dogma, unless you really understand how to research things. Sisson says, if you want to blame something for the promiscuity amongst youngsters, blame feminism. 100%. 100%. And you know what? The ironic thing is that Candace would agree with that. So for her, that's kind of what I mean, where she's kind of taking the route of it's about sex ed because that's convenient to her argument at the moment. Not a great look.
Our aversion to the truth. The truth offends people now. People don't want to hear the truth. Why? Because there's so many people out here spinning the truth.
Well, I just told you the truth, so I just want to tell you that.
You told me your truth.
No, I didn't.
Did you know?
I'll tell you the truth.
You told
Thomas
me
Sowell is not
your
a politician.
truth.
He's actually a researcher.
Yeah.
Getting back to research.
So Thomas Sowell is Jesus, and the rest of these people are simple followers who know nothing about
Hold on.
this.
Kids
These
became more
are your
sexualized.
facts.
More kids.
I worked on this as a kid. I was a peer sex educator as a kid.
Okay.
I worked on this.
Let's get to this.
So before she moves on, Holly says schools should teach reproductive health instead of sexual health. This gives parents the ability to educate their kids about sex, while schools can teach about the reproductive system. Love it. Yeah, I definitely think the problem is that there is a there's a timeline. There's a timeline when you have to get to these kids before they find hardcore prawn and they're talking with their friends and they're in these situations. And so I had they did 2 rounds of sex ed in my school district. There was a very cursory kind of understanding about how your body works and puberty and that kind of stuff, where they separated the boys and girls, and that was in 5th grade. And I remember it being kind of weird. I definitely didn't know that my parents had sex before that, so that was a little weird. But that's about as far as it went. Then in 8th grade, there was another version where they got more in depth about things like STDs. And I do think it is important for kids to have that information. I understand where there are parents who are not going to want to have their kids exposed to everything that's in the curriculum. But I think the only issue there then becomes that there needs to be more transparency with what is being taught, and then you have to opt in to each thing. And so if we're talking about doing it the way my school district did it, then that's twice for the entire school career of a child, twice that you have to go through and actually check off which things. Okay, I want you talking about that. 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 And I mean, not very, very easily, but it wouldn't be impossible to categorize these things in such a way that depending on how the parents fill that out, you can create groups based on, okay, we have the everybody group who their parents is they want them to learn everything. Then we have a group that is more of a mid tier, and then we have a low tier, and then we have a couple of individual students who their parents really don't want them knowing much about this from the school. So we'll just do that, and then they can take electives in or something like that. I do absolutely think, like I said, abstinence only and no sex education leads to higher unwanted teen pregnancies. That is bad for everyone involved. So if we can get that down, then that's great. How far the education actually goes is a very closely related but different conversation. I think again, as long as it's not getting into like teaching kids how to do things that they don't need to know how to do, getting into kink stuff like that is not has no place in reproductive health. So I think calling it that probably would deter some of that stuff from automatically being included. But I definitely think there needs to be some level. Harley goes on to say, then schools and parents can keep sexual topics out of schools. Again, I don't think that we should be keeping it out of schools. And again, I do think we should be teaching about sex. Just the degree is what needs to be determined. I don't think that not talking about sex at all is good for society. To be says the amount of fallacies you could identify. Candace of Guilty is here. Oh boy. Bandwagon. Hasty generalization. Correlation causation factory. Factory. Fallacy. That's what it's called. Okay. Personal incredulity. Yep. Hey, we got Cerberus. Welcome to the parties. Hey, where do babies come from? Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing to deal with. But a lot of parents don't, on one side, a lot of parents want to shelter their kids from the over sexualization that's going on. Obviously, completely understand that. But then you do have the parents who are just shy and weird and don't really know how to have these conversations. And I certainly agree if you would say that, well, that's their responsibility. Learn, read a book or something. The truth is, a lot of times they just won't. And so I do think that is a place or a thing that is, fundamental to survival, fundamental to making it in the world, that we can't let there be a crack there. And I don't see a way that not talking about sex in school at all is a good idea. All right, so she's moving on. Let's
get to something that we agree with. Let's
go.
throw that in there, because that is a good way to move on. Yeah. But let's get to something that we agree with.
It's
so
good for
you
your
had
ratings.
a video that went viral, and I have been kind of beating the drum about these vaccine mandates and how unconstitutional they are, but also just so reminiscent of atrocities that have happened in the past. And you had a video that went viral, so let's watch that clip of you in New York.
Well,
Vaccine is a choice, okay? It's a choice. You shouldn't exclude people from everyday activities because they choose not to engage in something. The government story on the vaccines have changed every 1 to 2 months since Donald Trump. The vaccines have had effects that people come out and say, oh, well, that never happened, but they do happen. People die. Joe Biden said that folks wouldn't be hospitalized. People are being hospitalized and dying. Yet again, I'm not telling you not to get it. I'm just saying you should have a choice.
Absolutely, you should have a choice. I don't think there's any other rational position to have. Obviously, this is from a year ago. So we're just talking about where people were at this time. But I don't understand how so many people were brainwashed into believing that it's okay to mandate a medical procedure, specifically the pro-choice crowd. But that's one I'll probably never get. So it's just I think it's pretty smart to give teenagers at least some basic knowledge about sex and safe and controlled environment. It's one of the primary needs of humanity. Keeping it obscure only causes issues. 100%. I'm not saying I'm not saying not to teach about sex. The problem is creating a curriculum for minors to teach them about sex. Where do you draw the line without coming to opinions? And again, that's a great question. And I think my idea that I just pulled out of my ass just now about categorizing the curriculum and then sending like a permission slip home to the parents and say what level of education do you want us to give your child? At least then the people who want the kink stuff can have their kids being taught about butt plugs and whether they should use spit or lube. And then the normal kids can just learn about sex. And then the other side of the weird ones won't know anything and get their 14-year-old girlfriend pregnant. Works out for everybody.
That is well said. I'll ask you a personal question. Are you vaccinated?
Hell no.
Okay, I'm not.
I'm sorry.
Me neither.
Yeah.
So can you just explain to us, kind of give us an inside track of what's going on in New York City right now and what is the response that you're getting to this, which to me should be common sense, that people should have a choice as to whether or not they want to inject chemicals into their body, but under this administration, it's apparently not.
And again, just reminding you, this is from a year ago, so put yourself back in that mindset where we're just starting to come out of this whole Rona world.
I mean, now that I have your audience's ear, right?
Uh-oh.
I didn't just wake up one day and become right on one topic, right? As a leader in this movement, as a man who has a business degree and a law degree, someone who has
not a great start,
fought for our people, who has served our people, someone who's followed Christ, right? This movement for the liberation of Black people, we're right on a lot of topics. And what I ask conservatives and people who don't usually listen to us to do is actually open your mind and listen to the things we're saying. Get past what
we've been listening, bro. That's why we're so mad. We're listening loud and clear.
It's in front of you and just try to understand where we're coming from.
How do you not understand how condescending this is? Conservatives, all conservatives, I got a hint for you. You just got to listen to me and open your mind. Oh, is that how we fix all of politics? Listen and have an open mind. I never thought of that. Imagine that. Harley said, I'm not. Oh, we got that one already. Yeah. I mean, to be the fact that so many people got conflated with this group because of this most recent jab just shows you the power of suggestion.
So now we're here at these vaccines. You are full aware of the fact that Black people have been experimented on in medicine since slavery. This is nothing that we can argue.
I covered it on the show.
Yeah.
Nothing to argue about. It's the truth.
It's the truth, right? Say it again.
See, again, she's still trying to win when she's in agreement.
Tuskegee experiment, 100% the truth.
Come on, what else?
Yeah.
What else?
Like, that's
about it.
Yeah.
Nah, give it to him. What else?
Well, under slavery, technically slaves were property. So beyond slavery is what I think is almost the most interesting element, because we're talking about an experiment that ended in the 1970s. It's very recent. The same CDC, they never were disbanded. The same, human health services, they never were disbanded. In fact, they've been promoted and they have more money and power than ever. And we've never been in America where they said you're going to be forced to either not be able to move in society or inject yourself with something that has been approved for, I guess now it's just patently approved. But it's problematic.
Me personally, because of all the reasons you mentioned and I've mentioned, I'm not taking a shot. Someone asked me, what's my burden of proof to make me take it? I don't know.
That is that's a great thing to say when you don't know. The fact is, in order to have the opinion you have that opinion based on the information that you do have. If you're going to change your mind based on new information, if you already knew what that information was, then you would already know it. Now, sometimes it's a matter of numbers. So, like, what would it? How many people would it take to be dying every year for you to consider something dangerous, whatever, something like that? Then you have a, but not everything is going to fit nicely like that. If you're not convinced of a claim, then the information that will convince you, you're not familiar with. So that's you don't hear a lot of people taking that route, and I do like that. Sister says, yes, let's not test on black people anymore. If it turns out there's some physical difference for black people causing some medications to perform. Come on, seditionalist. Oh man, you got one past me. Sareba says the poll is difficult to answer. That's why I word it that way. New York City BLM is different than Minneapolis, LA, and especially national. That's precisely why I asked this way, and why I didn't make a distinction in the first poll. But I have my reasons. We'll talk about it.
I'll know it when I get there.
And there we go. I love that. Let's hear that again. I'll know it when I get there. So when people ask me, what would it take for you to be convinced in God? I don't know. I'm open. I'm willing. I'm listening. But I don't know what it would take. But I promise you, if it presented itself, or if you present it, I will take it. Listen to this again. I like this.
All the reasons you mentioned and I've mentioned, I'm not taking a shot. Someone asked me what's my burden of proof to make me take it. I don't know. I'll know it when I get there.
I don't know. I'll know it when I get there. Love it.
But this vaccine and this passport has shifted the narrative in a lot of ways. Because right now, they've made these vaccine passports freedom papers, right?
Mm-hmm.
To where police, to where business owners, to where people who do not like black people can use these vaccine passports as a way to harass and oppress black people. So you look at Carmine's, and y'all will love this, right? Carmine's, in my opinion, was the biggest fake news story of 2021. Why? You had these 3 women who were seen on TV pummeling this little Asian woman.
Y'all remember this story? I'm interested to see what he's going to say, because I remember this story, and I remember how it was reported on originally, and then I remember that there's a twist in the narrative, but I don't remember exactly what it was.
Right? And what the story that Carmine's ran with, and New York City politicians ran with, was they were asked for this vaccine, and they reacted violently. But what they didn't explain was that this woman taunted them from the time they arrived. I could lead you through a long sequence of events, but there was this condescending tone in her voice. There was racism. There was a racial slur mentioned to these people.
Therefore, violence is justified. That's not how it works, bro. Just because somebody is an a-hole, just because somebody is a POS, does not give you the right to hurt them. That is the entire premise behind not mandating the jabs. Is that regardless of what you think and how you feel, you cannot get physical with another person unless it's justified, unless they're coming at you, unless your life is in danger, something like that. Oh boy, here we go. I got to start reading you before I start pulling these up. Businesses harassing the unvaccinated, but when it's a black person that's unvaccinated, it's harassing the blacks. Bars. 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 That's facts. I didn't even think of that. That's how desensitized we are to the race card. Good call, seditionalist.
Okay.
Now, I can't even dispute any of that, and
Yeah.
I have not followed that story closely enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to know that obviously because of this story situation that happened in Carmine's, Black Lives Matter is now actively saying they want an end to vaccine mandates.
Yeah.
What has been the response? And this is interesting because in New York, all the politicians were very
Yeah.
pro Black Lives Matter during the election cycle.
Okay.
We haven't seen any of these, that same amount of support since Biden got into office. I have said to you that I think Black Lives Matter is very much used to elect politicians. And then once the politicians are in office, nobody cares anymore.
So that's an interesting pivot. Not really a pivot, but I would have expected Candace to kind of argue with or at least push back against the reasoning that, oh, you saw this, you saw a bunch of women ganging up on this small Asian woman, but it will, and he's arguing that it was justified because of what she said and how she said it and whatever else. I'm surprised she didn't push back, but I don't necessarily think that would have necessarily been a useful conversation. So she moved to the main point of that, moving towards BLM being behind not supporting the mandates. I like it. So because she did that, they deserve to be attacked. What he's saying is part of the problem with violence in Black communities. Yep, on point, 100%.
Here's the thing, Candace. We talked about this years ago, and what did I do? I agree with you. You want to know when Black Lives Matter will have another rise again? It'll be the next presidential election.
I'm in the midterm.
Or the next, it'll be the next election cycle. So with that being said, I just want to...
And so we saw that there wasn't really much of an uptick during the midterms. And so, then we have this poll here. The original one, is it still here? The original one, do you think BLM will be an issue during the 2024 election? So again, I use the word issue because depending on how you read it, it could be an issue in terms of, are people voting on this issue, or an issue meaning just being a disruption. So 66% of you said yes, and 33% said no. And then now we have, will BLM have negative or positive support in 2024? And 75% say negative. So I think the what he's talking about now is that with the election cycle, I absolutely think Black Lives Matter is going to at least try to pick up and fight with the Democrats. But as they're talking about with the jab mandate, not really in line on that. So it's going to be interesting to watch to see what exactly the platform of Black Lives Matter is over the next 12 to 16 months.
Walk you through how we got to this place, and I'll make it quick. These three women.
All right, that's it. So he's going back to it. Candace tried to move on, but he's going back to it.
Were walking back into the restaurant. They were going in. They were escorted by a manager, and this woman stepped into the hallway and said something. There's no audio, but all four women turned and looked like, what did she say? And they went outside, and four women turned and looked like, what did she say? Audio by a manager. And this woman stepped into the hallway and said something.
Okay. So I don't know where I would assume she's in the front, but they said she looked back. So this looks like the worker here.
There's no audio.
Oh, okay. Coming back here. And she looked back. She looked back. Looks like she looked back.
But all four women turned and looked like, what did she say? And they went outside and they handled her, right? Now.
They handled her. They handled her. You know how you handle a person like that appropriately? You go to the manager and you say, excuse me, the person working for your business just was extremely rude to me. But they decided to attack her. That's a society I want to live in.
Now, a lot of people might say, hey, Hawk, this audience is like, Hawk, what are you talking about? They handled her, they put hands on her. But I was over by a bunch of honky-tonk bars, right? And I know those people over there get drunk and brawl a lot.
Here we go with a whataboutism.
Okay? Like people fight over disrespect. So if you come and say something to me that has been a racial trigger to my people for hundreds of years.
So wait, are you saying it's okay for people to fight if they're white?
and I put my hands on you, there is no one who can judge you for being violent in that situation.
I can. I can. I want to hear this whole explanation again because I stopped it a little bit, but like, what is he saying?
Election cycle. So with that being said, I just want to walk you through how we got to this place, and I'll make it quick. These three women were walking back into the restaurant. They were going in. They were escorted by a manager, and this woman stepped into the hallway and said something. There's no audio, but all four women turned and looked like, what did she say? And they went out.
What did she say? That would be good to know. Because if she said, come on out here and beat my ass, then we're talking about a different thing than if she had said something that maybe sounded like it could have been a dog whistle, but it wasn't. Maybe she straight up dropped the hard R. Either way, you can't put hands on people.
Outside and they handled her, right? Now, a lot of people might say, hey, Hawk, this audience is like, Hawk, what are you talking about? They handled her, they put hands on her. But I was over by a bunch of honky-tonk bars, right? And I know those people over there get drunk and brawl a lot, okay? Like people fight over disrespect. So if you come and say something to me that has been a racial trigger to my people for hundreds of years, and I put my hands on you, there is no one who can judge you for being violent in that situation.
We're not litigating.
What they did was this woman antagonized them, but the politically savvy thing to say was it was the vaccine.
Okay.
That's how they covered up racism.
Now,
So let me.
I'm gonna let.
I just want to jump in here. I agree with you that
Officer
people shouldn't
Tatum.
blindly take the vaccine. If that's what you want to do your research.
Yeah.
It should be a choice. People.
Again, love how he's bringing it back to the issue at hand and not arguing over, well, these black ladies were okay to I was going to say something. I'm chilling. It's okay for them to attack this woman, but they're getting back on task.
It shouldn't be made to do that. However, I disagree with this being racial.
How so?
I don't believe that it's racial. Just because there's disparities doesn't mean that there's discrimination. Thomas Sowell wrote a book about that. Disparities and discrimination.
Y'all love this man.
He's great.
Is this like a cult?
Do you know who Thomas Sowell is?
No, I have to read up on it. Is this
You don't
like
know
a
who Thomas
cult?
Sowell is?
No, I do not.
So
That's being like, MLK said, y'all must love this guy. Are y'all a cult?
what?
He's the one who condescendingly told all conservatives that he's not just right about one thing, he's right about everything. And we all just need to listen to him and open our minds. But he has no idea who Thomas Sowell is. Now, I'm not saying you need to know everybody in history. But if you rep Black Lives Matter, Thomas Sowell is probably somebody you want to know. Well, he said, this is why people don't respect BLM. No one likes reckless, meaningless violence. Yeah, that's not good. I mean, that very plainly said. It's just not good. And he's sitting here advocating for it.
Oh, after you get off the show, go look at Thomas Sowell. They have a documentary. You can look it online.
Mhm.
He's the smartest, most brilliant man, black man to ever exist.
Okay.
Smartest guy.
Smartest black man.
To ever exist.
Smarter than Malcolm X.
To ever exist.
Smarter than Jesus.
To ever exist.
Smarter than Jesus.
To ever exist.
Because that was a smart black man.
Yeah, Jesus wasn't just a man, so we can't count Jesus like that.
But
All right, so
he was black though, right?
So yeah, but what I'm saying is that you can say he had darker skin. I mean, we can go down that argument. But anyway,
But let's stay focused.
we're gonna stay we'll stay focused on this. So I don't think it has much to do with race, but I think it's a correlation here, right? You see that these vaccines disproportionately affect black people.
Yeah.
The same way with certain other things in our society that disproportionately affect black people, like the welfare state and other things that Democrats do, disproportionately affect black people.
Is that true? I heard a stat, and I didn't really look any further into it, but per capita, there's more white people on welfare than black people. Isn't there? I might be wrong about that, but I heard that somewhere that's a talking point that that welfare disproportionately affects black people. I could be wrong. I really have no idea. Dude on the right is so racist. Even Stevie Wonder could see the distinction he creates between blacks and others. Good one, good one, good one.
And so I see the
Republicans have had their hand in racist policies.
We can talk about you can talk about a hand, but I'm talking about the overall scheme here. You cannot deny that Democrats have been overwhelmingly responsible for the degradation of the black community. Even now, who's pushing the vaccine?
Now, here's the thing. You asked me a question, but you want to keep talking.
Let me just ask you this question, and then you do this. Who's pushing the vaccine right now? Which political party?
Dams.
I can talk now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Y'all starting to like me. I appreciate that. Here's the problem.
I just want to say I have like 4 of the topics I want to get to.
We go. You know we always run over.
I know,
Last
but
time we went an hour over.
I know.
Okay, so let me real quick.
Okay.
Real quick. The Democrats and the Republicans have oppressed black people. America's a racist place.
No, it's not.
Okay. Yes. Every statistic indicates that it is.
Give me an example.
An example: systemic racism.
Let's talk about policing.
Let's talk about policing. I would love to talk about policing.
Are you saying
but,
policing?
But let's talk about education first, because everybody's like, oh, he's Black Lives Matter. He's going to talk about policing. Let's talk about.
You don't agree. But you don't agree with Black Lives Matter, do you?
Let's talk about
as the national organization.
Why are you spinning me? Why are you spinning me?
I want you to clarify.
Let me talk. Let me talk. Get the tension out of your chest. Fall back. Take a sip of water.
I love how since the time that Candace said, well, we have other issues, and he was like, I'm going to go through this real quick. They haven't even started.
Had more words than everybody, so let's not pretend he's not letting you talk.
No, because it's 2 against 1.
Those best friends.
I'm not ganging up on you.
Bonnie and Clyde of the Republican Negro Brigade, right? so here we go. Systemic racism, redlining, right? Candace always talks about black economics. The reason why black people are so far behind in the wealth gap is because programs were set in place to deny us loans, to deny us home ownership, to deny us access to an education. And this has been a trickle-down effect.
Okay, and who is doing that to you today?
This is still proven.
Sorry, what program denied us access to education?
There was education in and of itself. We were not allowed into schools.
Yeah, but you said a program.
This is, I'm sorry, systemic racism. Systemic racism. So
program?
Programs like
Yo, she just said it, and then he literally did it. Give me an example of racism. Systemic racism. Like, bro, that's not what she meant.
What was it? The 1934 Housing Rights Act, I believe it was.
Can you give us anything from this century, or at least the last, 70 years?
Denied us access to banking. Right? We couldn't get mortgages. We couldn't get insurance. So here you had black people who couldn't hand down a house.
I thought we were talking about education.
To their children. Black people who couldn't get insurance policies. So when they had died, their families couldn't bury them properly. Their families couldn't have wealth. This is a system. This came under Roosevelt. And this is a very real thing. Like I'm not a Democrat. Yeah. I'm not a Republican. I am a purveyor of truth to the American
what's really interesting?
public.
Are you
I mean,
everybody can find that. No, because the thing is,
education,
you keep throwing things. You want to talk about education.
Go back to is redlining, and it's great. I mean,
what
FDR. But I just whenever if you have to, let me finish my statement.
You see why I have to talk?
If you ever have to go all the way back to the 1930s.
Because you got to be
quick. Back to the 1930s.
Point.
Black people. No, I don't have to be quick.
It's very simple.
Actually, if you want to teach me how to shoot, talk about shooting cop. If you want to talk to me about making a point, then you need to look at my law school education.
Okay, but
we're not in the courtroom right now.
Appeal to authority.
Listen to what I'm saying.
You couldn't get educated.
Black people are in schools that are failing across the country, and nobody has fixed that. I know you want to say it's Democratic cities, but Republican cities are failing black people in schools as well.
What about responsibility from the black community?
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you said that. Responsibility for the black community.
The fact is that even in low socioeconomic areas, you will still have Asian and Indian kids way outperforming the white and black kids. So the fact that he's saying the responsibility for the black community, yet he's going to then turn around and say, oh, well, it's the system and we're oppressed and we're this and we're that, when none of that stuff is relevant to you and your success today. I'm not saying that your family was not affected by it, but there's poor people all over the place. Most people do not inherit generational wealth. So this idea that all white people just have millions coming to them by virtue of being white is just wrong. So you start with this straw man that, well, white people have generational wealth. Yes, a lot of them do, but most people do not. So this is a non-starter. And what does that have to do with education?
You said something about BLM. I have moved in a different direction than the Black Lives Matter movement and
How so?
created something called Black Opportunities.
Okay. All right. Black opportunities. Let's see what he's got.
Because I know that in order for Black people to attain independence, for Black people to attain independence, they have to build themselves up financially.
We'll get back to the show in a moment, but first.
Sorry, Candace. They gonna have to pay me too.
Candace.
Black people have to be responsible for personal responsibility when it comes to education, when it comes to showing up at the school board, when it comes to teaching your children at home, and when it comes to being married and having children in a stable home.
That's a fantastic point. I said probably because of instead of creating programs to raise the standard of education, we decided to drop the standards so kids go through schools not being able to do math or read. Exactly. And it was not the cops, the white people as a group who did that. It was the Democrats as a group who did that. And so, well, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. Okay, we're past that time. We are past that time. Unfortunately, because of groups like yours, you have created a political landscape where there is no middle. You're either on this side or on that side on any given issue. And so if you are involved in the issue and you are spreading a message, then you are pushing people towards one party or the other. Whether you want to or not, that is the landscape we find ourselves in. Session said deadbeats are still being treated like trash. But if you're Black, I really got to read these before I pull these up from you. But if you're Black, it must have come from systemic racism. I mean, I totally agree. Blacks have had to fight an uphill battle for rights and equality. But yeah, I mean, where does same thing we were talking about with the level of sexual education? Where does that end? At what point are we as a society going to stop saying, well, Black people can't do this and Black people can't do that and Black people can't do this because of the fact that they're Black? When are we going to stop saying that? I'm sensitive to the issues. I just don't think it is helping any Black people to complain about the past oppression of Black people. If it weren't being acknowledged, that would be something very different. Then I would say, yes, that is something we need to talk about. But that's all we talk about. That's all we talk about. If it's not them, it's the transes. But between the two of you, there is nothing that is not about race or sexuality. Exactly, Cerebus, the No Child Left Behind Act. And, well, technically that was George Bush, I think, right? Which just goes to show it's not about a political party. And the fact is the uniparty is a real thing. But that's where you have, the newer, like America First conservatives, as well as the Libertarian Party that really is, I'm hoping, going to change the landscape that, we're talking about. Change it to where there is more of a middle ground. Host says, if we stop treating them like they're helpless and dumb, they'll stop acting helpless and dumb. Exactly. You are a product of your environment. And if your environment is to constantly say, you're oppressed, you're oppressed, you're oppressed, and then on top of that, you are owed this, that, and the other. Well, what reason do you have to help yourself? What reason do you have to smarten up on how to increase your, or better your situation? It's somebody else's fault, and somebody else is going to fix it. Exactly right. So Seditionalist says, once you attain those rights and equality, it's time to step up and take responsibility and accountability. You guys are on fire tonight.
All of those things are personal responsibilities that the Black community have to be responsible for as well. I mean, you're talking about government entities. That's not everything. When you talk about people not getting access to loans, that's not every Black person. When you talk about education system being flawed in the Black community, that's not every Black person. You have a lot of
wait. See, this is why I had to talk over people. You said something that warranted a response. You said something that warranted a response.
I was trying to add one sentence to Brandon. I was just going to say, Brandon, did you know that in another Thomas Sowell book, that it actually tells you that Black people are more likely to be declined from a bank that's a Black-owned bank rather than a white-owned bank? Did you also know that that Asians are accepted at a higher rate than white people in this country? I learned that in a Thomas Sowell book. I just wanted to add those little tidbits.
Here's what it is. This is American politics, right? People.
Oh, okay, Kamala Harris. This is politics in America, okay? That means that in America, we do a thing called voting.
With their views, want to shout at people instead of allowing them to make their points. This is the problem.
Sound good.
This is the absolute problem. You said I had to go all the way back.
He's gonna be so
you had to go all the way back to the 1930s, but I made a point about failing schools across the country right now. He said something about Black accountability, and as I sat here and described a program that is unlike any other country, any other in the country, Black opportunities, that is like any other in the country, that is unlike any other civil rights organization in America. When I'm trying to lay that down to you, when I'm trying to tell you how I could start teaching kids about,
I swear, if he ends this sentence with talking about how he's getting cut off and he's not being heard and all of this, I'm shutting this off.
About tech, how I can start getting people vocational skills from early on, giving kids an education outside of what they're dealing with in these garbage schools. When I start talking about that, I get cut off.
You constantly.
Bro, go cry about it. This is a podcast. This is a show with 3 people. This is a skill that everybody needs to have to some level. You need to be able to have a conversation. And then even if, there's some friction within the conversation, you need to be able to just address it and move on. For the last 10 minutes, we haven't talked about anything except him getting cut off. And he keeps getting cut off because it was all he's talking about is getting cut off instead of talking about the things that are supposed to be talked about on the show. Quit crying and just talk about the things. When you say something good, interesting, entertaining, then people will shut up and listen. You are not owed. You are not entitled to my attention. It is your responsibility to make me listen to you by being captivating. I get cut off.
I think that you're in this victim mentality.
I'm in
we're
a victim mentality.
Just trying to have a conversation.
She hit the nail on the head there. She hit the nail on the head. It's not just this. This is how he views everything in life. How am I being victimized here? Let's talk about that. It's not about the fact that she specifically brought up something that you guys agree on, and we're trying to have a conversation about that agreement. You're still finding a way to be oppressed.
Supporters have been crying since he lost the election. You're such a hypocrite.
Okay.
People have. What?
So the degrees of our target that you have to be to think that is I don't even know what to say. I mean, I do not even want to say. So it's just said if he would want to discuss about how the educational system as a whole is flawed and needs improvement, everybody would agree. But why play the race card? Polarization does not improve the situation. And you're exactly right. We were all ready to listen when he was saying, we black opportunities, and we did this, and we did this, and while this was going on, that we still don't know because you're still crying. You're still crying about it.
Have been running around, oh, the election was rigged. Oh, there's something wrong here. I'm like, oh my God, isn't this what they accused us of doing?
Well, didn't the Democrats do that when in 2016? They had a whole Russia collusion investigation for 3 years?
Yeah. But guess what? I'm not a fan of the Democratic Party.
Me neither.
I am a follower of Malcolm X, who said that the Republicans were wolves and the Democrats are wolves in sheep's clothing.
And what does Black Lives Matter?
What does Black Lives Matter? Now,
an organization,
now,
a cult
by white Democrats.
Now you have to really understand. There's a hierarchy to Black Lives Matter. There is Black Lives Matter Global. That's whatever they're doing over there. Then there are the people who go outside.
This is a no true Scotsman fallacy. Well, they're not really Black Lives Matter. They just call themselves Black Lives Matter, and they're doing this, that, and the other. We're the real Black Lives Matter.
Who watch someone like George Floyd being murdered on television, who watch people like Eric Garner being choked to death. You have people like that who just go out, who it hurts.
Do you think anybody here saw those videos and were not emotionally affected? Who are you arguing against? Who are the people that are championing the fact that people like Eric Garner and George Floyd were killed? And two, who are the people championing those people? They don't exist. You are fighting ghosts.
Who it hurts and just want to go outside and say, stop the racism.
Oh, that's what the Summer of Love was about. That's what the 2020 riots were about. Just stop. Just say, stop the racism. That's all they did. They just said, stop the racism. And then they went back inside. And then the evil white racist came and killed them all. This guy does not live in reality. Now. Neo-Nazism global is what? That's not a sentence.
And then you have independent organizations like ours, like Black Lives Matter Greater New York.
Then why did you call yourself Black Lives Matter? Why not Black Opportunities for New Yorkers?
Who operates in a very effective way. Nobody will tell you we fed 15,000 people last year in the height of COVID. Nobody will tell you that we raised that money without the help of New York City government. Nobody will tell you that I opened the only Montessori school in the Bronx, New York. School systems are failing. We created a school that caters to the needs of our children. Those are the things that don't make the news because they're not clickbaits. Like, Candace, we get crazy. It's cool. But when we talk, we talk. When we talk, right?
I'm
the bottom line
right now.
is
I just really want to get to my other 4 topics.
Are you going to piggyback?
So I'm going to switch the topic to the Border Patrol. And let's watch, obviously, the media said that Haitians were being whipped. And you can actually see the photo, which we're going to pull up here, Haitians being whipped on the border. This went.
You know, I should have done this earlier because I didn't know about this story. Let's see if we can find it and see the actual reactions. Let's see. So MSNBC, that's got to be great.
If you come to the United States illegally, you will be returned. Your journey will not succeed, and you will be endangering your life.
So this is on, I guess, from September 20th of 2021.
And your family's lives. This administration is committed to developing safe, orderly, and humane pathways for migration. But this is not the way to do it.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is in Texas this afternoon, seeing a massive surge of thousands of migrants firsthand. He's in Del Rio, Texas, where authorities have started mass deportations from that crowd of 50.
Damn, look at that. That's a lot of people.
15,000 migrants living in a camp city under a bridge.
15,000 people.
Now, it's a government effort to deter more migrants from traveling there. That group is mostly Haitian migrants, and already thousands have been deported. There is video of one of those deportation flights arriving in Port-au-Prince. And according to officials, ICE will begin flying multiple deportation flights a day starting tomorrow. See that parent with the child. But for many of those Haitian migrants under that bridge, Haiti hasn't been home for a decade, and we're seeing an increasingly heartbreaking situation unfold there in Del Rio.
Absolutely. It is absolutely heartbreaking. Just like, you know, the people of Ukraine getting invaded is heartbreaking. You know what else is heartbreaking? People of East Palestine not being able to breathe. You know what else is devastating? The people in Flint, Michigan not being able to drink the water. So before we go and play world police, let's fix that stuff.
The next image might be tough to look at, but it's important to look at.
So this was the image. Let's get rid of the thing here. Take a good look. This is the image that they're talking about in the Candace Owens thing and the report that they're talking about.
The El Paso Times reported that a mounted Border Patrol agent was seen wielding a whip during an encounter with Haitian migrants. And joining us here in Washington is NBC News national security and justice correspondent Julia Ainsley. So, Julia, we'll talk about the Border Patrol enforcement strategy in a second. But you've got these deteriorating conditions, mass deportations, the image that we just showed. How did the situation get so bad so quickly?
Joe Biden. Joe Biden just basically being like, come on over.
It did get very bad very quickly. And in the past, when we've been talking about caravans coming from places like Honduras, El Salvador, there's usually a 2 to 3 week lead time where we're actually able to watch people come up, and DHS has intelligence officers who are tracking who's coming and where they're going. In this case, it really exploded overnight. We went from 5,000 on Wednesday to 15,000 under that bridge on Sunday. And the reason, Jeff, is buses. A lot of these immigrants took buses through Mexico. Once they got to the Guatemala-Mexico border, they were put on buses either by cartels who were paying for them, or in some cases, even government authorities who just said, look, we can't take all of these people in at once. And Mexico basically didn't do as much on the enforcement side as the U.S. would have hoped, but in large part because they were maxed out at capacity. This group was just so large. And so they were
And again, why were there so many people?
able to make their way to the U.S. border that much more quickly and in a much larger number.
So we heard the DHS secretary today talk about mass deportation flights, multiple flights a day. But as you pointed out in your reporting earlier on MSNBC, you know, a lot of these Haitians who are being deported haven't been there, in some cases, for a decade. So help us understand where these folks have been, what they've been doing all this time.
Right.
They've been here.
So after the 2010
No, they've been traveling other places.
earthquake, there was a mass immigration with an E from Haiti going to places like in South America and in Central America. Many went to Brazil to get work around the 2016 Olympics. Of course, those ended. So they've really been bouncing around trying to find a way to make a meaningful day's work for.
And again, I'm sensitive to that. I understand that I would probably be doing the same exact thing if I was in that situation. But that doesn't change the reality of the fact that resources are finite and our country is falling apart.
For a long time. Now there have been deteriorating conditions in those countries as well. At the same time that the U.S. has opened up some of its policies to be a little more friendly toward Haitians. They announced temporary protected status after the assassination of the president. But as my work has pointed out today, that only applied to Haitians who were already here. They also stopped deportations temporarily after the August 14th earthquake. All of that, whether or not it will really protect people who are coming here now or not, in most cases it won't, it gets misinterpreted a lot of times. And a cartel member might say, now's your time to come to the United States. If you don't get in now, you won't get in later. And that just triggers.
Facts. Come 2024 or 2025, it ain't going to be like that. So she said the whole migration discussion is basically trying to deal with these symptoms. If the U.S. still wants to covertly operate outside its borders, it should hunt down the smugglers that profit from this. Hard to disagree with that. Harley said, Haiti has been in horrible conditions for decades now. Just like Mexico, they're a third world country, but even less developed. If we really want to stop this, we have to address these countries. I don't know that. Address them how? What is it that you would like to do? Another regime change and install our own dictator? What is it that you like? I'm not saying that not letting these people into the country is going to fix their lives. I'm saying it might just be that that's the hand they were dealt, and you don't get a good run. I don't know what else to say. Like there's just not enough stuff for all people. There's just not enough stuff. So I mean, you get the what they were all up in arms about. Let's see. Let's get the exact date. So this was about a week later. It's from October 1st of 2021.
Viral, and this inspired a very big reaction from our politicians. We can actually cut to seeing some of Kamala and Maxine Waters responding to this picture.
I was outraged by it. It was horrible and deeply troubling. There's been now an investigation that is being conducted.
There's being investigation? Okay, because these are people who are not from America, okay? Because America is our country, and we love all people. But, okay, we cannot have everybody here.
Which I fully support, and there needs to be consequence and accountability. Human beings should not be treated that way, and as we all know, it also evoked images of some of the worst moments of our history, where that kind of behavior has been used against the indigenous people of our country.
Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? I mean,
behavior.
Straight-faced. Talking about the worst kinds of behavior in our history.
Has been used against.
And then she laughs.
The indigenous people of our country has been used against African Americans during times of slavery.
And we can also, Maxine has always got something to say.
Oh, Maxine Waters.
What the hell are we doing here? What we witness takes us back hundreds of years. What we witnessed was worse than what we witnessed in slavery.
Worse than slavery. I feel like if I was a Black American, I might be offended by that. Hey, we got Divine and Rod in the building. What is good? What is good? Welcome to the party. What if Seabass and Kamala had a baby? Well, I would have some amazing impressions for you guys, but that would. Welcome to the party, brother. Then we got one more here. Harley says, we need to work with these countries and develop a relationship with them so we can work together to stop these mass migrations. Humanitarian programs, police and military co-ops, and development. I mean, it sounds nice. It sounds good. But where is the money coming from to do this? Who are the people doing this? It sounds good. If this is a plan that can be rolled out, I mean, I would be behind it. It just sounds like if we could do that, then they would have already done it. Maybe it has a bit to do with the fact that they do want all this mass immigration. Just saying. Hey, we got David Banner in the building. Welcome to the party, brothers. Said Kamala is the last one I want to hear with fake sympathy. If she had so much empathy, why did she keep people in cages longer than they needed to as a prosecutor? Not just in a cage, but on death row. Despite having DNA evidence, and I'm pretty sure, fact check me on this one, but I'm pretty sure it was for a drug-related crime as well. I could be making that part up, but they were on death row. Hey, we got Dietrich in the building. Welcome, Dietrich. Been a while. Glad to see you. Kamala always looks like she smells ish, but it won't get out of the room. I guess when you have a sewer line spewing right out in your nose, it's understandable. Good one. Welcome to the party.
Cowboys with their reins again, whipping Black people, Haitians, into the water where they're scrambling and falling down when all they're trying to do is escape from violence in their country.
So let me tell you,
the system said some people want a less smelly and trashy house to live in. Instead of rehousing them, we should teach them how to keep their own house clean. In my opinion, same applies to most of immigration. I love that. I love that. Cerebra says, more to the story. Dude was going back and forth to carry out from Mexico, Uber Eats. There you go. Harley says, our government has plenty of money. Oh, I know they have plenty of money. Are they going to spend it on what we want them to spend it on, though, is the question. Maybe instead of spending it to give people drugs or to get high, you could have used it for this. That's, you know, if that's the way that our government worked, then I would certainly be much less of a libertarian and much more of a Republican. But I don't trust the government with anything, especially money.
Like, no, I love this so much because it provided the perfect cover. There was so much pressure mounting on Democrats to answer for why, our country is currently being invaded, right, at the border. And they see this photo and they go absolutely crazy. And it was a great story. The only problem with it is that it didn't happen, right? So what were your thoughts when you saw this? What's your opinion on this story?
Well, first of all, I heard it come out in the news that they were whipping people. And I said, that seemed way too juicy. You know, and my whole thing, if it's too juicy, let me do some research. So all I did was do a little research, looked at the pictures. I looked at a cowboy online, and they were talking about how they use split reins, the dynamics of split reins, how the horse, is maneuvered with the reins. And it's clear that they weren't whipping people. It's clear that that's not a tactic taught by the Border Patrol agents. All of that is very clear. All you got to do is do a little bit of research. And to see politicians come out and act like this was worse than slavery, to act like these people are being whipped, this is the most horrid scene that they've ever seen in their lives. And they are just projecting a lie. And as you notice, they're all saying the same thing.
Right.
They're all saying the same thing because they are purposely trying to paint a narrative. This is not a mistake. This is not just pure stupidity. This is not just ignorance. This is malicious. They are doing this on purpose. They're doing all this BS, talking about what our government is doing with our money. But they don't want you paying attention to that. They don't want you paying attention to the fact that we just had another bank bailout. They want you paying attention to, oh, look at the racists doing all the racism. Dave Banner says this exact same situation is going to happen during, after, and because of the election too. This is the reality of the world. Yep. Excuse me. Our government could work that way. We can't control our government right now because we're too busy fighting each other instead of working together to make these changes. Exactly. 100% agreed.
They all are coming back to our history of racism in the Black community when these are Haitian people who are invading a country.
Right.
I didn't even think of that. These are Haitians. I forget who it was, but somebody, I don't remember who it was, but it was a Black stand-up comic who had some joke about this. And they were talking about, racism and the police and whatever. And all the Haitians would be, I'm not Black, I'm Haitian. Like, that's a thing to separate Haitians from Black people because the culture is different. I didn't even think of that. They just see black skin and, well, good enough.
And they're not getting whipped. It's clear.
And so obviously now what happened, of course, was the photographer who is not even on the conservative side of the political spectrum came out and said they were just not being whipped. And it's just a weird angle. Captured the migrant photos, says agents didn't use whips. And now we actually...
Yeah, so the headline they're showing from Newsweek says a photographer who captured migrant photos says agents didn't use whips on anyone.
Have the full video so you can actually see what happened and how the media is still trying to lie about it.
Uh-oh. Context. All right. Anybody see a whip? See some reins? And remember, they are invading, regardless of their situation, they are invading our country.
He's grabbing him by the shirt, and he's got
Worse
the horse rein. Yeah, horse rein still trying to grab him by the shirt.
He did look like he had Uber Eats.
Okay, Hawk, your thoughts?
I'm afraid I can't give people the response that they were warned. I see Haitians. I see people whose country has been ravaged by atrocity after atrocity, earthquakes, hurricanes, the Clintons. Like,
that's a good one.
These people are hopeless, and they are trying to make it to the land of opportunity.
Yeah, Dietrich says J6 was worse than slavery to these people. Everything is. And this is after they've seen the Tucker tapes. It's still worse because now there's a conspiracy cover-up that's on mainstream media. The next nuance to become volatile, redirect, please. Yeah, we're going hell in a handbasket.
I'm not having a whole debate, but as a Christian, I feel compassion for those people. The imagery.
As an atheist, I feel compassion for those people. That does not change the reality of the situation.
When it first hit, looked terrible, right? Now, even looking at this, it does evoke. Like, I would love for you all to look up a study by the American Psychology Association about racial trauma, right? Because it's really a thing, and it has a similar effect as PTSD.
The American Psychology Association is probably the most heavily infiltrated medical organization in America. Maybe other than Big Pharma. I don't think there is any, as somebody who has a degree in psychology, there is no medical industry other than actual Big Pharma that has been infected with political ideology than psychology. And, you know, yeah, I got a bachelor's degree in 10 years ago. But one of my best friends is a doctor of psychology. And she agrees. And she got mad at me for years for trying to tell her that even though these were in her textbooks and you know, getting ahead of me, Harley. Even though it's in your textbooks and these professors and these doctors and these studies and all of this stuff, it is all politically motivated. All of it.
I'd love for you all to look up a study by the American Psychology Association about racial trauma, right? Because it's really a thing, and it has a similar effect as PTSD. Any soldiers out there, you might know what I'm talking about. But with that PTSD, looking at this, it makes me think about slavery. Now, they came.
Why? That makes you the racist. Because just because they have black skin, it makes you think of American slavery? That makes you racist, bro. It's like if I said, I see these people and it just, you know, makes me think of chicken and waffles. You'd be like, bro, what? That's racist. To say you just see black people and it reminds you of racism, or it reminds you of slavery, is racism. Keep this in mind, guys. This is going to come back. So she says, too focused on blaming each other for being Democrat or Republican and the party we put into power, instead of jointly working together to change how both parties put that power to use. Oh, no, it's not PTSD, but PBBSD. Post-born black stress disorder. Got him.
Come out with and I'm going to finish quick with respect.
No, you're not.
The story about the whips, I was like, wow, this is effing horrible, right? But I see people in a really destitute, 15,000 people who are starving, who are just seeking a better opportunity. And I see them being exploited.
He's already said that a number of times. You know what he hasn't said? His reaction to the fact that the media and so many other people had the wrong idea, that these politicians were evoking this PTSD that he has when they didn't even need to. Why isn't he more mad at Maxine Waters and Kamala Harris than he is at the people saying like, hey, this is really what happened? Byron said on the previous subject, brain drain is not good for a country as well. So smart people mass migrating to the U.S. is not currently good. Yeah, I mean, I guess, but that's an issue way further down the line than you know, the fact that there's just not enough stuff. There's not enough space. There's not enough food. There's not enough money. And so, you know, which people we're taking in is, you know, secondary to it. Harley says, I have PTSD from two different things. Sorry here. I hate how people try to misuse it and misrepresent it. Not just military members get it. On top of that, most people who do have it don't get it treated because they're unaware that they have it. Yeah, you were talking to me about, you know, I was talking about some reoccurring dreams that I was having, and you brought up that it might be a form of PTSD, and I had just never thought of that before. Dietrich says, APA, the bad man touched you, even if you didn't. Now pick a place to say where he touched you. Do it, or you're a bigot. Well, that maybe was 10 years ago. Now it's like, oh, you're feeling unhappy? It's because you're the wrong gender. Pick a new one, or you're a bigot.
By the media, by this administration. Listen, when the Mexicans were at the border and Trump was in office, all of these same Democrats, AOC, Pelosi, Schumer, they all ran to the border, right? Trump is the worst person in the world.
Who remembers AOC's pictures crying at the fence? Oh no. Oh no. We got to pull those up. AOC border crying fake. Yeah, so let's see. They so they released, you know, like, I'm just gonna do that, and so there's they you know, showed her. Oh my goodness, look at the seriousness in her eye. Oh my goodness. And there was one with her crying. Oh my God, I just can't take it. And here you can already see that there's nothing there. But then you go here and you can see, oh no, this is this is Candace doing the same thing. Oh man. So where's the one that shows all the actual fakery? Yeah, okay. There's nothing there. This was the same picture as the other one, but there's nothing there. There's a better one where it shows like just how far away she is from anything that she can actually see. Ah, there you go. There you go. Like, what was she crying at? What was she crying at? There's nothing there. Oh no, there's cops. Oh no. Oh no. What a loser. What a loser.
But I was the one standing up in the dark, the lone voice saying Obama's immigration policies were atrocious. Trump's doing the same thing. Now Biden's doing it all over again. And flip-flopping Kamala 2 months ago said, I can't do anything about immigration. It's out of my hands. It's too much to handle. The fact of the matter is, Democrats nor Republicans have figured out immigration. Period.
I would say.
Fair enough. Harley says, it's sad that we have to have a fence. We shouldn't have to turn people away who are looking for a better life. Unfortunately, we aren't prepared to take those people in. Exactly. It's not about, this is the whole thing that those of you who remember Mackenzie, this was the entire argument that she rage quit the whole channel, the Discord server over. This is all I was saying. As a first generation American, my parents were not born here. They came here in the 80s. I can I understand the value of being here. I understand that my parents gave me a winning lottery ticket by moving here. But that still doesn't change the fact that we aren't prepared to take these people in. We're not prepared to deal with the people who are already here illegally. And again, we're not even prepared to take take care of our own citizens. But apparently, She thought I was saying that all immigrants are bad people and are horrible and should do this or that, or I don't know what she was saying. I thought I was saying, but hasn't been back, so I guess it must have been terrible. Dietrich says, oh my God, Schumer getting all hot in his pants when Tucker exposed them with the January 6 tapes. You all saw me running for my life. You saw it. How do you double down on being a proven fake? It's called being a politician. Yeah, they are. Did you see him? That's another one you guys got to see. The Chuck Schumer, Tucker. Like he straight up called for government censorship of the press.
Last night, millions of Americans tuned in to one of the most shameful hours we have ever seen on cable television. With contempt for the facts, disregard of the risks, and knowing full well he was lying to his audience.
Lying by showing footage of things that actually happened.
Fox News host Tucker Carlson ran a lengthy segment last night arguing the January 6th
It was like 12 minutes.
Capitol attack was not a violent insurrection.
Correct.
By diving deep into the waters of conspiracy.
You mean, he's talking about the conspiracy of Sicknick getting bashed to death. Yeah, that was a conspiracy.
And cherry picking from thousands of hours of security footage.
Unlike the J6 committee.
Mr. Carlson told the bold-faced lie that the Capitol attack, which we all saw with our own eyes, was somehow not an attack at all. He tried to argue it was nothing more than a peaceful sightseeing tour. Can you imagine?
Maybe not nothing more. And actually, he started the segment out with all of the violent rioting footage. So, seems like you, sir, are the one who's lying.
A nonviolent demonstration. A perfectly fine and appropriate instance of people expressing their opinion. I, so many others who were here in the Capitol, and millions of Americans are just furious with Tucker Carlson and Kevin McCarthy today.
Yeah, let's not forget that part. That it's not like Tucker stole something. The Speaker of the House gave him these tapes. So what exactly would you expect him to do with those tapes?
Many of my staff were here at the Capitol on January 6th. Their lives were put in danger, as were the lives of many of my colleagues, as well as police, maintenance staff, reporters, countless others. At one point, I was within 30 feet of the rioters. One of them, I was told, shouted out, "Let's get him."
That's probably a lie.
Before my detail pulled me away, and we ran in the other direction. To say January 6th was not violent is a lie pure and simple. I don't think I've ever seen a primetime cable news anchor manipulate his viewers the way Mr. Carlson did last night.
What was the manipulation? Oh, right. We're still operating on the truth that the J6 committee showed all that needed to be shown, and seeing the QAnon shaman just walking around with 9 cops. Yeah, that's not relevant.
I don't think I've ever seen an anchor treat the American people and American democracy with such disdain.
Democratic Republic.
And he's going to come back tonight with another segment. Fox News should tell him not to. Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, tell Carlson not to run a second segment.
Did you hear it? He literally is calling for the government censorship of the press.
Of lies. Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, back tonight with another segment.
Listen to it.
Fox News should tell him not to. Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, tell Carlson not to run a second segment of lies. You know it's a lie. You've admitted it's a lie.
First of all, nobody admitted it's a lie. How do you not have to immediately step down when calling to trample on the First Amendment so blatantly?
And Speaker McCarthy is every bit as culpable as Mr. Carlson.
All right, well, claps for him too. If he's just as culpable, we want to give him credit too.
Speaker McCarthy's decision to share security footage with Fox looked like a mistake from the very beginning. But after last night, it looks like a disaster.
Why?
Speaker McCarthy has played a treacherous.
Oh, a disaster to the narrative. I get it. All right, well, you guys get the point. All right. So let's see where we were here.
The handle. Go said, I can't do anything about immigration. it's out of my hands. It's too much to handle.
Oh, I missed these real quick. Harley said, we don't have a grip on our homeless and poverty issue. Until we have a system that can care for them, that is efficient and beneficial to them in society, we should add more to the problem. We should add more to the problem? I think I get what you mean, though. But yeah, oh, okay. There we go. I was like, I think I'll get you what you mean. I got you.
The fact of the matter is, Democrats nor Republicans have figured out immigration. Period.
I would say, yeah, well, we didn't have this going on when Trump was president, though, obviously. The numbers that are coming in right now are like nothing we've ever seen before. And I think a wall would work, but also maybe not because they're taking flights. Yeah, why do you think they're coming now?
What? Those Haitians weren't,
Yeah,
there were thousands coming to the border when Trump was president. Like, people come to America.
We did not have a surge.
People come to America. Most of the people here
Let's be realistic.
today.
We did not have a surge of Haitians showing up at our border when Trump was president. So I'm just asking a question. Why do you think they're coming now?
You know what?
Biden.
The world was in a destitute place. We were ravaged by COVID, whether you believe in COVID or not.
Who doesn't believe in COVID? Do people not believe that COVID is a real thing? I don't think that's a thing, bro.
The economy was shut down. There's been a lot of problems. Like, America has a problem with Black migrants, with migrants of color.
No, we have a problem with the number of migrants who are coming to this country, period. That's it. You are, again, fighting ghosts. It has nothing to do with the color of their skin.
It was when they were rounding people up. I didn't see one Russian person in handcuffs. Like,
has there been a surge of Russian immigrants, setting up camps in the tens of thousands?
Like when we had the raids in New York, when I used to have to go to make sure that ICE wasn't beating the crap out of people, it wasn't in white neighborhoods. So you mean to tell me white people aren't here illegally?
America has a problem with Black immigrants. Are you or brown immigrants? What are you saying? I want to get this straight from you.
Well, I don't.
Are you including Mexicans?
Yes.
Do you know that they account for over 50% of all of our immigrants? So we have a problem with over 50% of all of our immigrants.
But what about the Asian immigrants?
Well, they can't run over the border, so they actually come in legally.
So
Asia's pretty far.
Wait. We've been here before.
Yeah.
We've been here before.
How many?
There are two borders. People sneak into this country of all walks of life. Stop making.
How many illegal Asian immigrants do you think we have in America?
Give people the truth.
I'm telling you the truth.
Everybody comes into the country, and Democrats and Republicans alike make these exploitative mockeries of immigration by just pointing to the ones who are of color, who are politically poignant.
Listen, that's absolutely not true. You see what you want to see. How many times have you even looked up anything about Russian immigrants? Probably never. Never. I said, do you know how much it costs to become a U.S. citizen? It's $725. If they had an extra $725, would they still be coming to the U.S.? Probably. But I think it costs a lot more to do it illegally. You know, I think you have to pay like these coyotes like thousands, and I think they hold your family, and so I don't think it's a matter of having the money. It's about being able to make money. It's about being able to make a living. So again, I have sympathy for all of these people. That's not the issue here. I also have sympathy for somebody who got drunk and got behind the wheel and accidentally killed somebody and now has to spend the rest of their life in jail. But I don't think you should let them out. Well, I mean, you know what I mean. Dietrich says, they asked the caravans why they were coming. They told reporters Joe Biden. They were then asked if they would do this during the Trump presidency. They laughed and shook their head, saying no. Yeah. And people want to ignore that. But it's like, why would they lie?
African immigrants come here illegally. No, this is just not true. Hulk, I can't just let you say something that just makes no sense. Okay? African immigrants come here legally. Asian immigrants come here legally. They're separated by oceans, so yes, that's the reason why.
Come here illegally as well.
That's she's not 100% right about that, because a lot of times illegal immigrants from other places will come here legally, but they'll overstay, and so technically they are here illegally. The problem with that is that because they initially came here legally, usually they have some type of infrastructure where they can be productive members of society. And so, again, with the sympathy that people want to come to this country to better their lives and find a way to make a living. I mean, if you're here on an individual basis, if you're here and you're doing stuff and you're contributing to society, you're paying your bill, your taxes like the rest of us. I mean, hey, if none of us have to pay taxes, I'm down with that too. But if I have to pay them, you got to pay them too. But as long as you're doing that stuff, then we don't have an issue, or we don't have as much of an issue. But when you have hordes of people who are, and this isn't an insult, but low skilled, who don't speak the language, who don't have any connections to society, and are way more likely to turn to a life of crime because of those things, not because they're bad people, but because of those things. It's different. It's just a different thing. And you're trying to make it all about race because that's all you know how to do, is to turn everything into racism, 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 racism.
But not in the issue that we have right now. Not in a surge. Yes, there are some. Yes, there are some illegal African immigrants. There aren't 200,000 at the border trying to come in. Okay, that just is not what's happening. Be realistic. The illegal immigration problem is almost exclusively a problem that's happening at the south of the border.
You paint with these wide brushes and you deny people the truth.
You're not painting with any brushes. Do me a favor
to everybody who's watching.
You're the one saying that, oh, America just hates black and brown people. She gives you a more nuanced version. Oh, you're just painting with such a broad brush. What are you saying? Dietrich said 40 to 60 people stashing themselves away in cargo ships versus 100,000 encounters at the border each month. Yep.
Stop listening to people on TV and read a effing book.
Bro, you just said you didn't know who Thomas Sowell was.
Okay,
I brought up Thomas Sowell. You told me.
Google.
Let me jump in.
I brought up 3 Thomas Sowell books.
Let me jump in.
Listen.
I brought up 3 Thomas Sowell books, and you shut those down too. So do you what do you want?
Let me interject.
No, you have to read Ibram X. Kendi. You have to read the books that I read because I have all the right answers. Listen to something that he said earlier after they played the. Actually, I want to do it again. We're at 35-12. I'm just gonna put that there. So 35-12. So when they showed the video of him in New York talking about the mandates, he said something very important, and I want to see if you guys can catch what it is. It was after this video when they go back into the studio. I want to see if you guys can catch the line. He says something very specifically, and I've said it a couple times, but see if you can catch what I'm talking about.
That never happens, but they do happen. People die. Joe Biden said that folks wouldn't be hospitalized. People are being hospitalized and dying. Yet again, I'm not telling you not to get it. I'm just saying you should have a choice.
That is well said. I'll ask you a personal question. Are you vaccinated?
All right. So remember, there's one thing that he specifically says that leads me to believe he is the type of person that, is not honest and doesn't know his own limits.
Hell no.
Okay, I'm not.
I'm sorry.
Me neither.
Yeah.
So can you just explain to us, kind of give us an inside track of what's going on in New York City right now, and what is the response that you're getting to this, which to me should be common sense, that people should have a choice as to whether or not they want to inject chemicals into their body, but under this administration, it's apparently not.
I mean, now that I have your audience's ear, right? I didn't just wake up one day and become right on one topic, right? As a leader in this movement, as a man who has a business degree and a law degree, someone who has fought for our people, who has served our people, someone who's followed Christ, right? This movement, this movement for the liberation of Black people, we're right on a lot of topics. And what I ask conservatives and people who don't usually listen to us to do is, actually open your mind and listen to the things we're saying. Get past what's in front of you and just try to understand where we're coming from.
Who knows what it was that he said right in that clip from when they came back to Candace said, well said, threw it to him, and then he said something. I mean, he said a bunch of things that were dumb, but there was one thing that was extremely telling about why this is not the kind of person that you want to listen to. I'm going to find the no, I'm going to play it one more time.
There's more people who are serving, right? Just wake up one day and become right on one topic, right? As a leader in this movement, as a man who has a business degree and a law degree, someone who has fought for our people, who has served our people, someone who's followed Christ, right? This movement, this movement for the liberation of Black people, we're right on a lot of topics. And what I ask conservatives and people who don't usually listen to us to do is actually open your mind and listen to the things we're saying. Get past what's in front of you and just try to understand where we're coming from. So now we're here at these
So nope, of course not. Many of you follow Christ, and I respect the way that you think about things all the same. So what he said was, I didn't just wake up one day and be right about one thing. What does that tell me? That means, oh, you're telling me I'm right about this thing. That must mean that I'm right about everything. Listen to it again, just the beginning part here.
People who Christ movement as a man on one time.
Yeah. And then he goes into his accolades about law and all this that have nothing to do with social work.
I didn't just wake up one day and become right on one topic.
What he's saying there is, okay, if you agree with me on this, then you must accept that I am right about everything. And he brings it up again when he talks about He brings it up again when he talks about the BLM group that he's in.
Right? As a leader in this movement, as a man who has a business degree and a law degree. So
again, business maybe, but what do those have to do with these social issues that we're talking about?
Someone who has fought for our people, who has served our people.
Okay,
someone who's
relevant.
followed Christ, right?
Irrelevant.
This movement, this movement for the liberation of Black people, we're right on a lot of topics.
And then he says it again. This movement for Black people, we're right on a lot of topics. Maybe so. But even a broken clock is right twice a day. Just because you are right about something does not mean that you know everything about everything. Again, going back to women that I've chased away from the Discord community. Y'all remember Cherie? She got angry at me because during a stream one day, I didn't pull up her comment because it wasn't really relevant. We were, in Discord, we're doing whatever. And then the next morning, hey, what's up, guys? And she was mad about something and expected me to know that it was about me not pulling up the comment because I'm smart. I said, good morning. And she's like, something like, what was it? Something along the lines of, sometimes people will do something and it just makes me feel a certain way. What? Okay. What does that mean? And she goes, you're so smart. You know exactly what it means. Don't play dumb. You just do. Whoa. So I'm intelligent. So that must mean that I know how to read your mind. What? That's not how that works. He says, he says, we are right on a lot of topics, but he didn't specify which ones. I mean, they're talking about how they're in agreement about how the jab mandates were bad. But you're right. When he brings it up in this part, he doesn't say what he's right about. Does he say he has a business degree in law? No, I think he said he's a business degree and a law degree. Which just goes to show ya, academia does not mean you are smart. Just because you're an academic doesn't mean you're smart. It just means you know what you know. Dietrich says, college is such a subjective subjective BDSM philosophy to entitle the entitled amongst the commonwealth. Yeah. That's what there is such an emphasis on the knowledge that you're getting here at college is unavailable to anybody else. That's why people who think the way that he does bring up their academic things so often, their academic accolades. Bro, unless you're a doctor or you're under 25, I do not care what you studied in college. I really don't. Depends on the college and courses. Yeah, but still, I mean, he also included a bunch of relevant-ish. Yep. So that was when I knew. I was like, all right, this guy is not the guy. All right, so let's get back to 3512. Let's go right.
Immigration problem is almost exclusively a problem that's happening at the south of the border.
You paint with these wide brushes and you deny people the truth.
You're not painting with any brushes.
Do me a favor to everybody who's watching, stop listening to people on TV and read a effing book.
How many of you are watching him on your TV right now?
Okay,
I brought up Thomas Sowell. You told me.
Google.
Let me jump in.
I brought up 3 Thomas Sowell books.
Let me jump in.
Listen.
I brought up 3 Thomas Sowell books, and you shut those down.
Yes, this is right here. I find it somewhat hilarious that he wants to reinforce his authority by stating his degrees in order to reinforce his claims that education for black people is trash across the board. Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
So do you like? What do you want?
Let me interject. Right?
John Henry Clark.
Let me interject.
Let's talk about black authors who I read. Like, I'm a huge fan of James Baldwin. Like, just because I don't read what you thank you, you can clap. You can clap. It's all right. It's all right to be a lone person in the majority. No, it's really okay. It's real, especially when people are trying to suppress your thoughts.
Nobody is suppressing your thoughts.
You're literally on one of the most, not maybe the most famous, but you're on a show that's on the Daily Wire, specifically there to talk about your views, because Candace and Tatum already agree on so much. I'm getting suppressed and I'm so oppressed. This victim mentality. Candace hit it right on the hit the nail right on the head. You stay in this victim mentality and you always think that somebody is out to get you. Get over it. Just do what you're doing. Even when you are, the whole room is quiet, listening to you, and then somebody in the crowd claps in agreement with what you're saying, and somehow that means you're being suppressed. What? Come on. What are we doing? Something. Harley says having a degree in something doesn't mean you're smarter than everybody. It just means you have knowledge in something specific. Yep. A lot of lefties are. And he might say, oh, I don't like the Democratic Party. But you know who else says that? A lot of lefties. DJ said, glad he's not a drill instructor. Are you scrubbing that floor with the toothbrush? Too broad! Good one.
Suppressing what is actually incorrect, and I'm correcting it, and you're getting upset. And when I correct it with an actual book, you say that book is not good enough. And then when I correct it with an actual fact, you say go read a book.
This is very simple. We have immigration laws. It's very simple. If you want to come through a port of entry. Nobody gets rejected at a port of entry. You go through a proceeding. Now, if you go under the fence, you go over the fence, you start getting caught out on the Rio Grande, you're going to get detained. It's very simple. We can work on some of our immigration laws, but we do allow more immigrants in our country than any other country in the world. Millions a year, legally.
And the overwhelming majority are immigrants of color. So I'm slapping down your lie that we're somehow.
He made this claim that we specifically. It's not about the migration. It's not about the resources in America. It's not about the taxes that are being stolen from us. that we're not even getting the stuff that we're promised. We're not even getting what that tax money is supposed to go to. But in his mind, that's irrelevant. It's because their skin is darker. There's more melanin. It's such a simplistic, childish way to look at the world. But because so many people think this way, you can get onto Candace Owens' podcast spewing this BS. Go for it. That's the sad thing. That it's not just that he thinks these things. And we talk about this all the time. That I don't know where he falls in terms of there's the people who are actively lying to sow this dissent. And then there's the people who have already been brainwashed. I can't really tell which one he is. I'm going to guess that he is the latter, that he is just somebody who was brainwashed by all the propaganda, because he doesn't have any answers for any of this stuff. The people who are trying to literally brainwash and indoctrinate our children are better at doing it because that's their goal. He seems to just be like, no, this is what it is, guys. It's racism. Trust me.
Racist in terms of the immigrants that we're accepting.
No, but you stop talking when she talks. That's what I'm saying. Go ahead,
You've been talking for like,
He's
still
complaining. Oh my God, what a little bitch. He's still complaining about being cut off. He's still complaining. Dude, you are the in the hot seat, in the spotlight. I mean, this whole production is about you. You've been talking non-stop. I don't even know much about Officer Tatum because I haven't seen him before this. And he hasn't really said much of anything. But he keeps getting cut off. Holly says it's a big issue with a lot of this. Many people talk about it, not knowing how these things work. The propaganda convinces them that anybody who questions them is just exhibiting more racism. And so it just confirms their theory that everything is racism. Because when I try to say that this is racism, these people, even though they're black, they said it wasn't racism. So the racism must be so bad that even black people are racist too. It's insidious. It is purposeful. And it is working.
You got a whole show going on.
Exactly. That's what
I'm just going to say this.
It's like a breath of fresh air to some.
When we talk about racism and you talk about the bias against people of color, I mean, the Border Patrol agents are 60% Hispanic. So most of the Border Patrol are people of color in the first place. So I don't believe.
I guarantee you he did not know that. I guarantee you he did not know that.
Even the racism that you are portraying. When I look at what happens with AOC and them running to the border when Trump was in office because they were trying to draw attention to make Trump look bad. Now they don't want to go to the border because they don't want you to know what's happening. You're talking about 15,000 people. Not only have they came over here illegally, not only have they breached and pretty much invaded our country, they do not have satisfactory conditions that they're living in. We cannot offer them proper food. We cannot offer them proper housing. We cannot offer them safety. And the reason why they're coming
we can do that for Afghanistan.
Listen, the reason why they're coming here is because
I mean, that's a good point. He's talking about we can give that to Afghanistan. We can agree on that. But why do you have a problem with our country giving aid to Afghanistan? But you don't have a problem with aid being given to Haitian citizens because they're physically here? That's the level of logic. So this one says, I did a fast and dirty Google search on immigration numbers and found 740,000 for the U.S., total population of 336 million, and 1.9 million for the EU. Yeah, but that's not one country. EU is a union in Europe.
Administration is pretty much telling them it's an open border. You come here, you get in, you have amnesty. That is the reason why they're coming here and putting their lives on the line.
I'm with you, right? I'm with you. Like, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying.
I think that was like 40 seconds.
No, we are listening.
Okay, I'm going to do it real quick. I'm going to do it real quick.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
As a Christian.
No, he's not.
Probably won't, right? As a Christian.
Like a black pastor.
As a Christian. if people are
there we go
fleeing
again.
political,
As a Christian, as somebody who spent time out here working with these people, as somebody who grew up in a certain place in the world, as somebody who has experienced racism on a daily basis, as someone, just say the thing.
persecution, they're fleeing a country ravaged and devastated. I have a heart. I care about people.
Oh, that's the problem. He has a heart, and we're all heartless Republican lizard people. That's what it is. I have a heart. I actually care about people.
Now, if you want to talk about this country, the Democrats saying, "Hey, it's an open border," it's a lie, bro. Okay, listen to what I'm saying.
But it's not, though. Like, it's just not. I mean, they say it. This isn't up for debate.
Let them saying. This is why I can't finish in 40 seconds.
No, understand.
Listen, you're saying they're encouraging them, saying them that it's open.
What
borders.
I'm saying is a lie.
But the problem is what politicians say to you and what they actually do is not a new concept. That's American as apple pie. So they're saying, yes, when Trump is in office, come. Now they're in power. They're like, stop. I can't do anything for you. Like, I'm not here to argue politics. I just love people.
Yeah. I also want to say that to that.
What? Wait, did anybody, am I stupid? Did that make sense to anybody? I have no idea what he's saying. The problem is,
what politicians say to you and what they actually do is not a new concept.
I think what he means is the fact that politicians will say one thing and do another is not a new concept, because what politicians say to you and what they actually do is not a concept. That is just a thing that either does or does not happen.
That's American as apple pie. So they're saying, yes, when Trump is in office, come. Now they're in power. They're like, stop.
No, they're not, though. They're not. You're just wrong, guy.
I can't do anything for you.
We could never do anything for them. So even if you're right that they were saying, come under Trump, we still couldn't have done anything for them. So even if you are saying that it's the Democrats who are halting the immigration, you still agree that immigration needs to be halted. Sisha said, the EU is pretty much the same as the US, though. No, it's not. People forget the EU has a federal, state, president laws, etc., just like the US is super. Okay, that wasn't the claim. The claim was that the US brings in more immigrants than any other country. So unless you can find a country that brings in more than 740,000 immigrants, then that is a true statement. That's great for the EU that they can do that. But also, think about all of the issues that the EU is experiencing because of immigration. It's not just economic, it's cultural. You have, especially in bordering Muslim countries, where you have a big Muslim population in a more secular society. There's no, constitution that we have, so they just want Sharia law, and that's why there was spattering, no pun intended, of acid attacks. It was because all of these Muslim people in different European countries that they had emigrated to didn't like that women were not in a burqa or whatever. And so they would just start splattering acid on them. But yeah, no, the EU's doing great. I said it's not an open border. Bhutan, India, and Nepal share open borders, allowing their citizens unrestricted freedom of movement in all member countries. However, this open border is controlled for foreigners' entry and exit. Every other country has closed borders. 100%. But there absolutely are people, voters as well as politicians. I know Bernie was on that, at least for a while, about open borders. And the phrase open borders is a commonly used buzzword. So it's not like it's a brand new concept.
Like, I'm not here to argue politics. I just love people.
Yeah, I also want to say that.
Yeah, I missed again. He said that the politicians say one thing and do another. And then he said, I'm not here to talk about politics. I just love people. Yeah, they say one thing and they come to the other. And then, you know, when Trump was in office, they said, come. Then they get in power and they say, stop. I'm not here to talk about politics. I just love people.
What?
That is a meaningless statement. It sounds like he wanted to say something and started talking and realized he had nowhere to go with it. And so we just went to, I just love people, man. Like I'm just here for the people. Now, TB says he's confused, and this is not on the list of things he woke up one day being right about. Facts.
Like, I'm not here to argue politics. I just love people.
Yeah, I also want to say that to that point earlier that you said.
That sounds like a cut. That sounds like they, and that's why they're cutting to the audience, that he probably went on with some other BS, and they're like, bro, what are you talking about? They probably cut that out.
About PTSD, what did you say, post-black syndrome or something, which is akin to people in the military.
Harley, remember I told you to keep that in mind.
Racial trauma, and you said when you saw these whips, or, you know, same with slavery, which you said is akin to PTSD of people that were in the military, and you said it's a similar thing that you experienced when you at first thought that people were being whipped. The Haitians were being whipped.
Imagery has an effect.
Imagery has an effect. I do want to also say, just like out of respect to the military men that have PTSD, they actually served in the war. You were not actually a slave. I find that to be a bit offensive.
Wait.
The last thing I want to say.
No.
The last thing I want to say.
You absolutely,
it's ridiculous to say that you have PTSD is a trauma that you suffered, that you experienced.
I will not allow that to ride.
You weren't a slave. You don't have PTSD from slavery.
And racist system.
Where were you whipped? Where were you whipped at a horse whip?
Under the 13th Amendment of the United States
with the law degree
Constitution.
and no education.
When you bash
from
people
slavery,
like Naomi Osaka, who has mental issues, you bash people with mental illness. That's what you do.
And you just
you're trying to swing the story here.
You bash people who have mental illness. So of course you would.
How did we get onto mental illness? What? How did we get onto? We're talking. Who's bashing anybody? You're just saying that PTSD is not some term to be thrown around. So if anybody, you, sir, are bashing people with mental illness by trivializing their experience. How do you like that one?
Well, yes, you know what? I think it is a mental illness if you think that you're suffering from PTSD from slavery, you've never been a slave. I'm not bashing you, I'm just calling it out. That PTSD, do not correlate it to the military men who are suffering from something they actually experienced.
And you have a platform where you can tell people the truth, but you make a lot of money spewing these lies.
But you got 3 black people.
I don't hit that super chat, Cash App, whatever.
People up here that are in this.
Tons of money.
It's such a racist country.
I live in the South Bronx,
and we got 3 black people who are very successful.
Congressional district in America. I live in the poorest congressional district
what you're seeing
in
right
America.
now is something
move.
Called the Oppression Olympics. So he's trying to win the Oppression Olympics. I'm poor. Well, when I was a kid, I wasn't fed a sandwich.
I'm just saying, I'm not the feminine Republican version of Al Sharpton.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time.
The female
Make sure to keep up with Brandon and Hawk on social media. Thank you both for joining us. Can we go back up? I gotta just get this.
And look at those big diamond earrings and that big diamond ring.
These are fake.
He's so mad. He's so mad, bro. She's trying to end the show. That's obviously okay. I lost this one. Take the L, bro. Listen how long he's still
saying.
Yeah.
What you're seeing right now is something called the Oppression Olympics.
And so she's still now kind of doing the, addressing the audience.
So he's trying to win the Oppression Olympics. I'm poor. Well, when I was a kid, I wasn't fed a sandwich.
I'm just saying, I'm not the feminine Republican version of Al Sharpton.
By Hawk Newsom. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time.
So that's the line there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. That just means, oh man, I lost. It's over.
The female Republican version of Al Sharpton.
And now she's trying to call him, call out his socials and stuff for him.
social
Race
media.
hustlers.
Thank you both
Race
for joining us.
hustlers.
Can we go back up? I gotta just get this.
And look
wait,
at those
you guys,
big
I just gotta
diamond
say this
earrings
one
and that
thing.
big diamond
These
ring.
are fake.
All
Don't be mad, man.
bashing black people.
These are fake.
All
We got it
bashing
from
black
Forever 21.
people. Boo me. I love it.
You sound like a
You don't sound like you love it. You sound like you're butthurt about it, bro.
hater.
I'm not mad, but
What are
I
you
don't
talking
like
about?
people hustling black people. That's the problem.
The projection is so real. You are the race hustler. You are the one convincing black people that they are helpless because they are black. You are the one that telling black people that they are lesser than because of the color of their skin. Not Candace, not Tatum, not Trump, not white people. I mean, there are some white people, but we all agree that those white people suck. You, sir, are the race hustler.
Problem with black leadership.
You're
Our
in
leaders
the Black
are for
Lives Matter
sale.
movement.
For sale.
Am I allowed to wrap the segment? You can yell right after. They're still going to be
Go
here.
for it.
But I got to wrap the segment.
Go
Then
for
you
it.
can
You cannot get PTSD from something you didn't experience or witness. You can if you're black.
insult, talk
Wrap.
about your trauma from
Wrap it
slavery.
up.
Okay.
See, bashing people's mental illness. That's
I just want to see if she's gonna, they're gonna say anything funny when we're at the end here.
what she does. And then she'll
At least you're
apologize on
admitting-
Twitter later.
Any last minute super chats?
No, I'm not. At least you're
When the
admitting that it's a
community
mental
comes
illness.
after her, when psychologists come after her, she'll apologize on Twitter later.
I have never.
I knew there was a reason to stick around. Did you hear what he said? There's a reason why psychologists will come after her on Twitter. Listen to what he said.
Mental illness. That's what she does. And then she'll
At least you're
apologize on
admitting-
Twitter later.
No, I'm not. At least you're
When the
admitting that it's a
community
mental
comes
illness.
after her, when psychologists come after her,
Why would the psychologists come after her? Is it maybe because they are a cult that is the Democratic Party? Yes, it is. Sister said, a podcast is professional if the host has to lower its standards to the rebellious host. Shouting war! Yeah, definitely. And PTSD is a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event, either experiencing it or witnessing it. I don't think he was around during that time. Let's see. What does our resident fact checker have for us? What is PTSD? Oh. What is PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a psychiatric disorder that may occur in people who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event, a series of events, or set of circumstances. And again, that dude did not hit any of those criteria. An individual may experience this as emotional or physically harming or life-threatening, and may affect mental, physical, social, and or spiritual well-being. Examples include natural disasters, serious accidents, terrorist acts, war, combat, RPA and SA, historical trauma, intimate partner violence, and bullying. PTSD has been known by many names in the past, such as shell shock and combat fatigue. Shout out to George Carlin. Anything else here? Oh, we got a nice little video. What is this?
Most people go through some type of traumatic event in their lifetime. In some cases, the effects are short-term, but for many people, those experiences persist for years, causing post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. Events such as a natural disaster,
I just don't want to get claimed. I don't know.
Or sexual assault,
what this is
a
about.
serious accident, a terrorist attack, war or combat.
Let's see. Is she going to mention knowing that racism existed?
Or the death of a loved one may be the source of developing PTSD. PTSD symptoms often fall into 4 categories.
All right, let's
Intrusive
see.
thoughts or images related to the traumatic experience, such
Just like how he was so traumatized by seeing the picture of the Haitians.
as nightmares and vivid flashbacks. Avoiding reminders of the trauma, negative thoughts and feelings like fear or anger, and reactive symptoms like irritability and sleep difficulty.
Who here thinks that guy misses an ounce of sleep? over specifically slavery.
However, not everyone has these symptoms to the same extent or intensity. Each person's experience of PTSD is unique to them. Fortunately, there are recovery options. If you think that you or a loved one is experiencing PTSD, social support, empathy, and acceptance are key steps towards recovery.
See, guys, that's what we need to do. We need to have empathy. I can't. I was going to make a joke, but...
If they are open to it, encourage them to contact a mental...
All right, we get it. We get it. So, yeah, clearly he doesn't have PTSD. Clearly that is just a straight cope of not wanting to deal with the fact that he was wrong about literally everything he said. Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha. So Holly says, from the same people he said would attack her from saying that. Yep. The black community, so it says, gets PTSD from people like him, systematically degrading black people individually and as a whole, and make a flawed point. On point, brother. On point. This exactly is how you can get PTSD from racial trauma, from experiencing and or witnessing the constant berating, liminally or subliminally, that you are lower than, that you are lesser than, that you are not equal. At least under the eyes of the law, of course. Nobody's all the same. Life ain't fair. Yeah, 100% agreed. GB says, when he knows he lost, he started attacking Candace. Poor, sore loser. Yep. This is what we, unfortunately, this is, decently widespread amongst the people who talk about black issues in the way that I've heard it. I'm not trying to characterize all black people, but the people who, in the same way we talk about the trans activists, it's a very different connotation when I'm saying somebody who is trans versus a trans activist. And so making that same distinction here, obviously not talking about all black people, talking about those who take up the fight to fight specifically for black rights instead of, something more along the lines of human rights or an actual group that is well-defined and doesn't have 7 million different micro issues to deal with. It's not a good way to get anything done. It's not a good way to convince people of joining your side. And certainly acting the way he did, irritable is a nice way to put it, is not going to get people on your side. So this is exactly why I like to show you older conversations like this, because sometimes when we're talking about something that is specific to like happening right now, we can get lost in the sauce a little bit. We can kind of get more into like how we feel about a particular issue, but being able to take a step back and see if we still feel the same way a year later, we're a little bit more removed. We could actually look at the conversation, and that's what I like to focus on. On top of the issues themselves is the way that we have discourse, the way that we speak to each other, the way to see when you're trying to have a good faith conversation with someone and they are not having a good conversation or a good faith conversation back. So hopefully you guys got a little bit of insight there. Definitely that line about I didn't just wake up one day and be right about one thing. That was a red flag. And hopefully you guys can see more red flags in the future. But I want to say a special thank you to Harley Rose for sponsoring the stream, unless anyone wants to come in last minute and beat her up. But I really want to thank all of you guys for hanging out. I really do appreciate you spending your time here, giving me your thoughts and making this the party that I want it to be. I really, really do appreciate it. I hope you guys had fun. Once again, I am your host, Lutch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of Common Sense. Until next time, guys, you never know what it's going to be. Make sure you're subscribed. I am out of here. Peace.